Well, can't you tell I'm depressed? I just saw an anime that it wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't boring. But it was just outright depressing. I mean, I know from first glance this anime would look like it's an ethereal story full of bright colors, magic, and wonder. But you're wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. So what anime made me stoop to such a low state of mind? I'll give you one word. Air. Air was originally a visual novel created by Key that was playable on a PC. And like most Japanese PC games, it contained a considerable amount of adult content. However, it was later released for the Sega Dreamcast and later on the PlayStation 2 with the adult content removed. The game has made many transitions to other media, including manga, an animated film adaptation, and a 13-episode television series. This review is more of a focus on the TV series, but I will take some time to talk about some of the differences between the TV series and the film adaptation and how they hold up against each other. But I'm not going to lie to you, this anime was incredibly difficult to make jokes for. It was that depressing. But since this is a comedy show, I will try to do my best. However, I do have a lot to say about this show and have little time to do it. So why don't we just skip the synopsis and jump right to the show's main characters. First there's Yukito Kunisaki, a traveling puppeteer who travels from town to town to entertain people with his unique style of puppetry that he learned from his mother. Whoa, did that doll just get up by itself? That can only mean one thing.
I got no strings to hold me down, to make me fret or make me frown. I hit strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me.
He is rather cynical and untrusting, and often critical about Misuzu Kamio's behavior and her attempts to be near him, though he gradually begins to grow feelings for her. He also seems to be looking for mystery surrounding a legendary angelic being called the Girl in the Sky. I don't know, some chick with wings. If I were to explain it to you anymore, I risk spoiling a good chunk of the show's mystery. While in town, he comes across and befriends 3 girls, the first being Misuzu Kamio. How do I explain this character without revealing too much? She's the very first person to befriend Yukito, in which she quickly develops a romantic interest in him. Thus, seeing that he has nowhere to stay, she invites him to stay at her house, though her mother Haruka initially disapproves. She is a very cheerful girl despite being very clumsy and naive, such as constantly tripping and losing her balance or accidentally screwing up Yukito's breakfast.
A bug flew in through the vent again. Oh, the soy sauce bottle fell over. Oh, I ruined Yukito's bacon and eggs and I don't have time to make more. Oh, the salad oil spilled.
Masuzo!
I'm okay now. Let's eat.
Why are you looking at me like, wow, he's actually going to eat that?
What? No, hey, what are you talking about?
She also bears many strange mannerisms that make it difficult for her to make friends, and thus she is constantly alone. For example, she has a habit of saying the word "gao" every time she gets disappointed. Another example is the fact that she suddenly breaks down in tears whenever she develops a close attachment to someone. Kano Kirishima is the second girl that Yukito runs into. She is a very silly and energetic girl with a cute side who is the younger sister of Hijiri Kirishima, Misuzu's family doctor. She wears a yellow scarf all the time, in which Hijiri claims will enable her to use magic. I'm sorry. I just can't believe anybody would be that gullible at that age. She also travels around with a small dog that she named Potato, who arguably is the funniest character in the show in my opinion. However, she will also sometimes go into a trance, and her words will often not make any sense, almost as if she was possessed by something, such as the scene where she is getting a checkup from her sister.
Alright, Kano, let's continue. Kano? Hey, answer me, Kano.
I am no one.
I see, so you're back again. It's been a while.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Again. Stop it! It's the same thing over and over every time.
Your mother sucks and hell. Let her go. Keep away. The sour's mine.
No! Kano belongs to me. She's my precious little sister.
Stick your up her ass, you mother-ing worthless sucker.
Finally, there is Minagi Tono, the third girl that Yukito runs into. There is also not much I can say about this character without giving too much of her backstory away, but I'll try anyway. She is a top student in school who is often very quiet and shy. She is the president of the astronomy club and the only member until Yukito joins her. She is also followed around by a little red-haired girl named Michiru, who often gets into scuffles with Yukito.
That must have hurt. Oh, so you're not just a pervert kidnapper, you're a homeless vagrant too? You could have warned me.
So how does this show hold up content-wise? I don't remember seeing very much nudity in the TV series, however there is quite a bit of nudity in the film version, although it is used in a more symbolic manner rather than a sexual one. Thus, I will give the TV show no stars for nudity and 3 stars for the movie. Since this is a very serious drama, there is very little to no crude humor present in both versions. However, the movie does have a couple scenes where Haruka would tease Yukito in the movie, but I don't remember seeing too much after that. So I will give both versions 1 star. Likewise, I don't remember hearing that much swearing in the TV show. However, there are a few instances where mild profanity is used in the film version. So I will give the TV series no stars and the movie 2 stars for profanity. However, there is quite a bit of violence in both adaptations, mostly in the feudal era story arc. Thus, I will give both versions 2 stars for violence. So the story of the TV show revolves around Yukito and the 3 girls that he meets that seem to have connections with the girl in the sky in some form or another. The first half of the story involves around mysteries surrounding Kano and Minagi, while the second half focuses squarely on Misuzu and the backstory behind the girl in the sky. particularly episodes 8 and 9, in a story arc that takes place over 1,000 years ago. The TV series' story at times gets pretty confusing. I guess that's part of the show's mystery, is to throw questions in your face only to give out the answers at a later time. It's kind of a funny way to keep you glued to the show, anticipating what happens next, and I'll admit it is quite effective. However, the show's biggest problem is its condensed plot. First off, once Kano and Minagi's story arcs are resolved, they are never even heard from again. Which leaves me wondering how they are faring by the time the show reaches its conclusion. I guess what happened to them is all but left up in the air, since we are only left speculating to what happened to them. Another question is how the story spontaneously transitions to 1,000 years earlier for episodes 8 and 9, in which we learn of the events that try to explain Misuzu's current situation. However, once that's over and we return to the present, the rest of the story is told from the perspective of Misuzu's pet crow. And somebody please tell me why the crow has the exact same voice actor as Yukito. It's like telling the story of Sleeping Beauty from the perspective of Maleficent's pet crow without Maleficent being present and giving him the exact same voice actress as Maleficent. If that doesn't pop some brain cells, I don't know what will. However, the problems with the plot can be put aside in favor of Yukito's efforts in helping the girls overcome their hardships. However, the story in the movie makes much more sense than the TV shows, in my opinion. For one, it explicitly focuses on the relationship between Yukito and Misuzu, and how it ties in with the legend of the girl in the sky without having to jump back in time 1,000 years. Plus, the idea of having multiple viewpoints of the story that plagued the TV show have thankfully been eliminated. That of our little avian friend in the last 4 episodes. The other characters from the TV show appear as well, but are limited to cameo appearances only. However, there were a few changes in the plot between it and the TV series, as well as the game, in order to differentiate the plot, as well as simplify it in order to fit the story within an hour-and-a-half period. The result is a much more fluid story that remains more consistent than its TV counterpart. Also, where the show's ending was rather sad and depressing, the movie's ending, on the other hand, actually brought me to tears. And for a guy like me, that is quite an accomplishment. Bottom line, I will give the TV version 3 points for story, and for the movie 4 points. The soundtrack is fantastic in both the TV and film versions. The TV version uses the same music that is used in the game, while the movie uses a completely different set of music composed exclusively for the movie. The TV and game version was produced by Key Sounds label in collaboration with Ive Sound, while the film's music was produced by Frontier Works and composed by Yoshikazu Suo. Both versions' soundtrack really captures the feel of summer in their soft and ambient orchestral music, from the soft breeze flowing through the leaves, to the gentle roar of the sea, to the warm feel of a romantic moonlit summer night. It's a tough sell, but I will have to give both versions a 5 for soundtrack. The animation in both versions are pretty well done. The animation is crisp and clear, yet bright and colorful. The backgrounds are well detailed and contribute to the atmosphere of both versions. However, if I were to choose one or the other, I would without a doubt choose the movie's animation over the TV show's. While the TV show's animation was well done for its time, the movie's background and character animation is much more detailed, colorful, and lush. Although the TV show's animation gets a 4 out of 5, it still can't match the movie's 5 out of 5 stars for animation. The characters and their relationships with each other are practically the same in each version. Each of the characters are lovable and memorable in both versions, but the question is, which version does a better portrayal of the story's characters? That, once again, goes to the film adaptation. While the TV show tries to fit all of the characters of the game and their respective story arcs in, the result is a mishmash of plot points and character traits that are either explained too little or are explained in a way that makes very little sense to the viewer. The movie, however, makes a much more simplistic view by narrowing its focus solely on that of Yukito and Misuzu's story. Thus, the smaller cast of characters allows the film to focus more on its story and developing the main characters more. Thus, the film's characters actually become more developed than the TV show could ever accomplish. So, although the TV show gets a 3 out of 5 for characters, the film version beats the TV series yet again with a 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, Air is a great show. However, I think I prefer the film version over the TV counterpart for its much better portrayal of the game's story and its characters. The film adaptation of the story proves once again that quality is always better than quantity. While the TV show takes an original idea, it fails to tell the stories of all of the game's characters and their story arcs in such a limited time. In essence, it is a 26-episode story condensed into a 12-episode series. The result was a confusing story full of plot holes, detachable characters, and brings up more questions than it does answer. The movie, however, makes much better use of the limited time it has with a much more solid story, much more fleshed out characters, and overall execution than its TV counterpart. Oh yeah, and if you don't like stories with sad endings and depressing plot expositions, you may want to skip this one out. Thus, for the TV series, I will give it 3 style points and an overall rating of 7 out of 10. And for the film adaptation, I will give it 5 style points and an overall rating of 9 out of 10. So congratulations to Air the movie, the superior adaptation. I hope you enjoyed my review of both Air TV and Air the movie. Until next time, this is the American Anime Otaku signing out.